Have you ever had a car crash where the other person was at fault but they acted like the victim? 1. Yes, I pulled up and stopped behind a car at a traffic light. She was stopped for the red light. She then backed into me. We called the police. I was given a ticket for the rear-end collision. I tried to explain to the officer that she backed into me and that it was her that caused the accident, but he refused to listen. There was very little damage to both vehicles. It was just a very light scuff mark on my bumper and her car. You had to really look close to see it. A few weeks later, I get a call from my insurance company wanting to see and take pictures of my vehicle. I told them I would bring it by so they could take pictures, and they sounded surprised that the vehicle was still drivable. I took it to them, and as we were walking out to my vehicle they asked if I had already had the damage fixed after seeing it from a distance. I told them no. As I showed them the scuff mark, they realized what was going on. It was insurance fraud. She was claiming $3,400 in damages to her car. They showed me pictures of her car. After she hit me, she backed into something like a tree or a pole and caused much more damage to her car. We both had the same insurance carrier. They went after her for insurance fraud and managed to get the ticket I received thrown out. I feel that it was a setup. I think the officer was involved also. When we called the police, he was there in less than a minute. They had the scene set before I arrived at the light. He also refused to listen to me at all, raising my suspicions. I use a dash camera now because of that incident. 2. My favorite story. I was driving to get lunch one day in the Chicago burbs and a woman barely slowed down at a red light after coming off the freeway, turned right and darn near almost hit me. I slammed my brakes and honked. She went into the next lane, cutting another person off. They honked and she guns it, hitting a car in front of her who was stopped at a light. He hits the car in front of him. They all pull off and I pull off too, 'cause let's face it, this chick was crazy. The police get there and she's crying and saying another person forced her into another lane and the person she hit slammed on his brakes and obviously it was an insurance setup. I'm watching this just shaking my head. I let her prattle on, then wander over to the other driver and tell him not to worry, since, yelling, I got the whole thing on my dash cam. This is back when dash cams were new. She slowly turns, loses all color, immediately stops crying. The cop asks to see the video. As I'm showing him she tries to leave, so she lands in the back of the police car and is hauled away. She was charged with several violations. I emailed the video to the cop and other drivers, who later sued her. Poor baby didn't know what hit her. 3. This was hilarious even at the time of occurrence. We had just bought our very first new car, from a dealership about a week prior to this. I drove, with my 15-year-old son, to a neighboring town to pick up pizzas for dinner on a Saturday afternoon. My car is parked, in front of the pizza shop. My son was inside, picking up the food. I was seated in the driver's seat. It's important to note that my car was parked, and shut off. No engine running, not in gear, nothing. A car pulls out from about 3 places up on the side of the store, backs around and heads up the small slope out of the parking lot, then stops. Then, this idiot driver accelerates backward and backs up onto the hood of my new car. Passenger of that car then gets out, grabs my son who is exiting the pizza shop and starts screaming at him for hitting my car. Please remember that I was in the driver's seat and I was parked. I immediately got out, hauled this jerk off my kid and sent him back inside the store. I pulled my cell phone out, called 911 and started taking pics of the damage to the front of my car, with their car still sitting on top of it. Cops come, take a look at who is driving and start laughing. She's hammered and staggering, he's high as a kite. They are both insisting my son drove up under their car on purpose. As it turned out, this is their favorite way to make money. It's a small town. Most people would have given them $50 to keep it off their driving record, etc. The minute I told the police that I had pics of the damage, that the pizza shop security cameras had footage of the entire incident and that the sub shop next door also had cameras and about 15 witnesses, suddenly they were no longer interested in pressing charges against my son for ruining their car. Lol. 4. In a Home Depot lot, I backed out of my space, put the car in gear and, bam, this car in the opposite parking spaces backs out on me. I didn't see any damage so I said let's forget it. Nothing doing. She's calling the cops. When the officer arrived, she showed him her car, a Tahoe, with this giant vertical crease. I showed him my car, less than half the size of hers, with no damage. She couldn't stop chirping about how I must have insurance. Why would she, or the cop, think a smaller car with no damage could put such a crease? Oh. I get it. She must have backed into a telephone pole and now she needs someone to pay for it. We exchanged information but not car insurance. It was a private lot after all. I later received a call from her husband. He left a message saying he didn't appreciate what I did to her in the lot, and if I'm man enough I will call him back. He issued 2 criminal threats on the recording. My brother-in-law, an attorney, said he could file charges and have the guy picked up right now. I thought I would let it die, but the husband called back. With a low voice I explained I would file the incident with the state, and strongly suggest his wife be investigated for insurance fraud. That's in case she decides to hit someone else and start this all over again. I explained how the laws of physics preclude her giant crease in her car while my smaller car was undamaged, and why don't you ask her what she really backed into. I also told him what my brother-in-law had said. I closed the call and never heard from them again. 5. About 25 years ago, when I was still young, I had a crash at a roundabout. It was the kind of roundabout where visibility of all exits was excellent from a distance away, and because the roundabout was offset from center, I was in a lane going straight on whereby you don't need to turn the car at all to cross the roundabout. So, on approaching I saw no cars to my right or straight on, and just carried on. Everything was fine until a car to my left, who should have given way to me, at roundabouts in the UK, you give way to the right, just pulled out. I hit the brakes but it was too late, and I went into the side of him. He was immediately on the offensive, I suspect thinking insurance companies would take the word of a middle-aged experienced driver over a 22-year-old. He kept saying that I was going far too fast, which was curious because by the time we hit I'd managed to slow down enough such that my airbag didn't deploy. He was impervious to reason, still yelling at me about my speed when the police showed up. The policeman heard the guy say, he was going far too fast, to which the policeman replied, if you thought he was going too fast, why did you pull out in front of him? My insurance paid nothing. 6. Yep. Left the house and went to turn left at the intersection and stopped. Neighbor's dimwit daughter turned in front of me, cut the corner and my bumper took out the side of her car from wheel arch to wheel arch. She got out of her car, howling and rolling on the road, but her parents, brother, 2 other neighbors and my ex-wife and her partner saw it all. Then the girl admits fault in front of everyone. A month or so later, I get a knock on the door. It's the girl, and she says I was at fault. I remind her that she cut the corner, collided with a stationary car, and admitted fault in front of a large crowd including her parents. I think she just got the insurance bill.